When you think back to your own school days, was there a classroom that was kinda a mystery? You probably heard the term special education thrown around, but maybe you weren't totally sure what it meant. Well, today we are pulling back that curtain. We're going to show you that it's not a place, but a really powerful idea that is changing education for absolutely everyone.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start by nailing down what special education really is. Then we'll hop in a time machine to see how it was born out of the civil rights movement. After that, we are going to untangle the big one, the difference between an IEP and a 504 plan. We'll look at how the whole field is transformed, and we'll wrap up with its most important principle, making sure every single student gets a fair shot.
All right, let's just dive right in. What exactly is special education?
Seriously, when you hear that phrase, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's a specific classroom, right? A room down the hall. But I want you to just hold that image for a second because we're about to flip it on its head.
Okay, this is the single biggest myth we need to bust right now. Special education is not a place. It's not a separate classroom or a different wing of the school or a whole other building. Now, that might be how things used to be, but that is not what it is today. The reality is way more flexible and, honestly, way cooler. Think of special education as a set of services and supports that are brought to the student, wherever they learn best, to help them succeed. It's a delivery system, not a destination.
So here's the official breakdown. It's specially designed instruction that's completely tailored to a student's unique needs. The whole system is built to guarantee something called FAPE. That's a free, appropriate public education. Basically, it's a promise that every child, no matter their disability, gets a quality education that their family doesn't have to pay for. And that promise? It's locked in by a huge federal law called IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
Now, a law that powerful doesn't just show up out of nowhere. To really get what special education is, you have to see it for what it is at its core, a hard-won victory in the long fight for civil rights.
And I mean, the difference is just night and day. Before the 1970s, it's shocking, but millions of kids with disabilities were just flat out denied a public education. They were invisible. Then, 1975 happens. A game-changing law passes, and for the very first time, it establishes that these kids have an undeniable right to walk through the schoolhouse doors.
That law, which we now know as IDEA, set up some ground rules that are non-negotiable. It guarantees the right to go to a public school, with all the necessary services paid for. It also created this crucial idea of the Least Restrictive Environment, or LRE, which just means students should be learning alongside their peers without disabilities as much as humanly possible. And it required that every single eligible student gets their own individualized plan, a custom-built roadmap just for them.
And that leads us perfectly into the practical stuff, and a question that, let's be honest, trips a lot of people up. You've probably heard of these two things, an IEP and a 504 plan. Let's finally clear up what's what.
I'm telling you, this is one of the most common points of confusion for parents and even for some teachers. They sound kind of the same, but they actually come from different laws and do very different things.
Okay, if you remember one thing, remember this. IEP is about instruction, and a 504 is about access. An IEP, which comes from that IDEA law we just talked about, provides specialized instruction. That means we're actually changing or adapting what or how we teach the student. A 504 plan, on the other hand, comes from a different civil rights law and provides accommodations so a student can access the same curriculum as everyone else.
So what does that access actually look like in a classroom? Well, a 504 plan could give a student things like extra time on tests, or a seat up front to help them focus, or maybe a copy of the teacher's notes. See, these things don't change what is being taught, they change how the student is able to engage with it.
So it's really important to get that this whole field didn't just phrase in 1975. It's been growing and evolving, and the philosophy behind it has made some really huge shifts over the years.
The old model, the one many of us still picture, was pretty much based on segregation. Students with disabilities were often put in their own classrooms, sometimes even in totally separate schools.
But the modern approach is all about inclusion. Today, the goal is to keep students in the general education classroom with their friends and peers, and we bring the supports they need to them. The question isn't, where does this kid belong anymore? Now it's, how can we make our classroom work for this kid?
The early days were also super focused on compliance. Checking boxes, was the paperwork filled out right, did we meet the legal deadline? It was all very much about following the letter of the law.
Today, that legal stuff is still absolutely vital, but the focus has really shifted. Now it's about collaboration, teachers, specialists, and families all working as a team. And most importantly, it's about outcomes. We're asking the big questions. Is the student actually learning? Are they on a path to graduate? Are we getting them ready for what comes next? College, a job, and a fulfilling independent life?
And this whole evolution brings us right to the heart of what special education is really all about today. It's a simple idea, but it is so powerful. It's about providing access, not an unfair advantage.
We have to be crystal clear about what special education is not. It is not about watering down the curriculum or lowering standards. It is not a punishment, and it is absolutely not a label that is meant to put a ceiling on what a child can achieve.
What it is a civil right. It is a system of support that's built around the individual. It's a legal duty that schools have. And when you put it all together, it's a pathway to something we call equity. And that word, equity, is everything. Equity isn't the same as equality. Equality is giving everyone the exact same pair of shoes. Equity is giving everyone a pair of shoes that actually fits. It means giving each student exactly what they need to have a real, fighting chance to succeed.
You know, when you boil it all down, it comes back to this one simple, profound truth. Education has never been and will never be one size fits all. And special education is just our most powerful and honest way of admitting that fact and doing something about it.
And that leaves us with one last big idea to chew on. If we've built an entire system that's amazing at tailoring learning for students with unique needs, what can that teach us about how we educate everybody? How can a system designed for the individual end up transforming the future of the entire classroom?